Many parents are turning to social media to vent their frustration about the issues they have in family court. I'm no different. For those that don't know, my name is George Saldana. I've been in the Harris County family courts here in Texas for almost 9 years. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about a particular story that happened in my case. My family law case started in the 257th court with Judge Sandra Peak there in Harris County. Judge Sandra Peak went ahead and assigned an amicus to my case. That amicus name was Diane McManus. Well, Diane McManus knew she wasn't going to get a favorable outcome from Judge Sandra Peak, so she went around the 257th and went to the 280th court, Barbara Stalder. Some of y'all have heard that name, Barbara Stalder. She was the judge that was just handing out protective orders left and right, especially to her colleagues from the University of Houston Family Law Center. And so this amicus knew that she could judge shop and she could go around the 257th court and get a protective order in the 280th court. So this amicus went around the 257th court to the 280th. The 257th assigned her to our case. She should have went to the 257th if she believed she had a problem. But she knew that she wasn't going to talk to me. She wasn't going to talk to my attorney. In fact, the amicus went ahead and filed for a protective order on behalf of the child. Now, the amicus doesn't really have a individual client. What an amicus is an arm of the court. But this amicus, she went over and beyond because at that time, my ex did not have an attorney. And so my ex was able to vent to that amicus. That amicus, hook, line, and sinker, took what she said, put it in an affidavit, and then filed for a protective order in the 280th court. Now, on this affidavit that this amicus wrote, it states that she has personal knowledge of the events. The amicus, on the record in front of the judge, stated that she did not have personal knowledge. So while an amicus has civil immunity, they can't be sued for the things that they do in the course of their work. What this amicus did was this amicus went around the trial court, went to a protective order court, filed for a child in which she was not representing, then filed a false affidavit with personal knowledge to the court. That is perjury, and her lying in the court is aggravated perjury. She said she had personal knowledge, then she retracted her statement and said she did not have personal knowledge.
2020, April 18, 2020, was Miss McManus in San Antonio, Texas at 5842 Rue Royale?
Objection, Judge. I'll stipulate.
Objection, Judge. Miss.
And Ms. Simon, stop. Let her finish her objection. Finish your objection, Ms. McManus. Objection as to the relevance of whether or not I was present in San Antonio. I'll stipulate I wasn't in San Antonio on that date. I think the relevance to this proceeding of whether or not I was personally, physically present in San Antonio.
Judge, attached to the application is an affidavit sworn to by Ms. McManus saying, I have personal knowledge of the facts and allegations in the application.
She has stipulated she wasn't there. Ask your next question.
That cost me a whole bunch of time with my child. So not only did the amicus not represent this child, it says on the petition for ex parte protective order that she was the amicus attorney for the child. So now I have two cases. I have a protective order case in the 280th, and I have the 257th case, my trial court in which my modification is in. And this really messed my whole case up because now we have two courts and they're rendering orders in two different courts and they're conflicting. And all of these people, the amicus, the judge in the 280th, the judge in the 257th, my attorney, her attorney, were signing agreed orders that are superseding the protective order. All of these legal beagles from the University of Houston are all signing these orders. So then the amicus goes back and tells my ex, Again, she's not represented at this time. She tells my ex that she doesn't have to abide by the orders that supersede the protective order, even though it was done by a district court judge. And so my ex keeps retaining the child again, thinking that the protective order is still in place. Now, I have two attorneys, two judges, an amicus that are all trying to get on the same page. Me and my ex, no legal education. We're just doing what we're being told. But now a district court is superseding the protective order. The trial court, the 257th, then removed the amicus for going around her court and going to the 280th. So now I have two conflicting orders, signatures from two different judges, two different courts, her attorney, my attorney, and we're making agreements, and this amicus is still being messy. So I filed a grievance with the state bar. If you've ever filed a grievance on a judge or on an attorney, they very rarely do they investigate from a pro se litigant or someone that's unrepresented. And so the amicus had to go hire an attorney. Yes. And she had to respond to my claims. So she did lose money, even though we didn't have to pay because we're indigent. But the amicus did have to defend herself against my state bar grievance. This amicus, I guess, ultimately got out of it. She still had to pay money, but she got out of it because the law does say that any person can file for a protective order. Even though she was not in the everyday person capacity, her capacity in the case was as an amicus, and an amicus does not have an individual client. So the state bar kind of just dropped everything and just kind of left it in limbo. Later in the trial court, final trial in the 309th, where we've been bumped several times, my ex stated that she knew that the amicus and her weren't going to get a protective order in the 257th. And so that was the reason why they went to the 280th. So not only did my ex confirm that there was some sort of conspiracy, because remember, a conspiracy is two people coming together to do something possibly illegal. In this case, they filed an affidavit. The 280th judge, at that time, was a visiting judge, Judge Judy Warney. She went ahead and dismissed that the affidavit that was filed was frivolous. We tried to say, hey, she doesn't have personal knowledge. You're trying to restrict my limitations to my child with this protective order. Yet this affidavit is flawed. And not only that, it should go back to the trial court. Well, I don't know what happened. Something happened, and that's where my case went spiraling. But it was due to all of these legal professionals playing these legal games in Harris County. And that's what makes me upset. You had all these brainiacs that went to law school. They're signing motions, petitions, affidavits, and they don't know what they're signing. They're filing it, and they don't care if they're breaking the law. Now, again, amicus, judges, attorneys, they're all immune from civil liability. But for the most part, they have immunity for what they're doing. Criminally, they cannot just file frivolous motions into a court's file and then not be expected to follow the perjury and aggravated perjury laws of this state. With that being said, I had two judges. I had the 280th judge and the 257th judge, an amicus from the University of Houston Law Clinic, and I had two attorneys that signed these orders, and then one got off, and then I had another one keep chasing this protective order. But you can't make this shit up. And that's what I'm telling you, is that now you have judges that are conflicting with other judges because they don't like the rulings. One judge is giving me permission to be with my child, and the other one is barring me from my child. And when you have two conflicting court orders, especially a protective order, and you're saying which supersedes, now you have two district court judges with the same power trying to supersede each other's orders. So that's just a little bit of the bullshit that I've had to go through. That's just a little bit about my story. Of course, there's a bunch more to my story, from ex parte to sua sponte. One judge wanted to sua sponte my ex off probation, even though it was an agreed order for 10 years and a 35-day suspended sentence. This is the shit you could probably expect from family court. I always tell everyone to start educating yourself, especially if you're a parent in family court. Start educating yourself, start knowing the civil rules of procedure, the rules of evidence, the disciplinary rules of professional conduct, judicial canons, Texas Lawyers Creed. You need to know all of those things if you're going to be expected to represent yourself pro se in a family court. Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a little bit about my story. That's just one portion of it. I'll probably drop other portions of my story, but that's the shit you can kind of expect to see in family court. A bunch of legal beagles that don't know shit and just signing shit, and they don't care what happens to you or your child. With that being said, thanks for listening, and I hope to catch you later, and I hope this was helpful.